The escape pod was half buried in the crater, still smoking from atmospheric re-entry. Sergeant Eli Cade approached it with his rifle raised, every instinct screaming that this was a trap. 3 years of fighting, the Sarathi had taught him never to trust anything that looked easy. "Clear left," his squad mate called. "Clear right," another confirmed. Eli moved closer to the pod. The metal was still hot enough that he could feel it through his armor. Through the viewport, cracked but intact, he could see movement inside. "We've got a survivor," he called back. "Preparing to breach." He activated the emergency release. The pod's hatch hissed open, releasing a cloud of recycled atmosphere that smelled like ozone and something floral he couldn't identify. Inside, strapped into a crash seat designed for Sarathi anatomy, was a child. Eli froze. The kid couldn't have been more than 5 or 6 years old by human standards. Small, fragile-looking, with the distinctive scaled skin of the Sarathi that shifted between emerald and deep blue. 4 arms, currently wrapped around themselves in obvious fear. Large golden eyes that locked onto Eli's face with intelligence far beyond any child's. "Cade, what have we got?" His squad leader's voice crackled through the comm. Eli should have reported it immediately. Should have called it in, let command decide what to do with an enemy survivor, especially one this young. Intelligence, value, potential leverage, all the tactical considerations that 3 years of war had burned into his thinking. Instead, he looked at those terrified golden eyes and saw a scared kid who just survived a crash that should have killed them. "Nothing," Eli heard himself say. "Pod's empty. Looks like it was jettisoned automatically during the battle. No survivors." Confirmed? Confirmed. Moving to secondary objective. He cut the comm and looked back at the child. The kid was staring at him, clearly understanding that he'd just lied to protect them, but not understanding why. "I'm not going to hurt you," Eli said quietly, not sure if the kid could understand English. "But we need to move, now." The child didn't respond verbally, but slowly unstrapped from the crash seat. Up close, Eli could see the intricate patterns woven into their clothes, not military uniform, but something ornate. Ceremonial, maybe. This wasn't just any Sarathi kid. This was someone important. "Shit," Eli muttered. He pulled off his combat jacket and wrapped it around the child, hiding their distinctive appearance. "Stay quiet and stay close. If anyone asks, you're a refugee I'm escorting to medical. Understood?" The child nodded slowly. Getting back to base without anyone noticing was impossible, so Eli didn't try. He simply walked with the kid tucked against his side, relying on the chaos of post-battle operations to provide cover. Soldiers were everywhere, securing the perimeter, treating wounded, processing prisoners. One sergeant with a small figure wrapped in a jacket barely registered. He made it to his quarters, locked the door, and finally let himself process what he'd just done. "Okay," he said to the child, who was now sitting on his bunk and watching him with those unsettling, intelligent eyes. "So here's the situation. You're in a human military base. If anyone finds out what you are, best case scenario is you become a prisoner, worst case." He didn't finish that sentence. "I need to figure out how to get you somewhere safe. Do you understand me?" "Yes." The child's voice was soft but clear, speaking English with barely an accent. "I understand." "You are protecting me. Why?" "Because you're a kid, and kids shouldn't be casualties of war." "I am not just a child." The kid sat up straighter, and despite their size, there was something regal about the posture. I am Crown Prince Zethara Vel Korthas, heir to the celestial throne of the Sarathi dominion. My mother is Queen Velshara Nos Korthas, keeper of the sacred flame, commander of 7 fleets. Those golden eyes held his. She will come for me. And when she does, she will want to know who touched me, who saved me. Eli felt his stomach drop. You're the queen's kid, her only child, her heir. Oh, this just keeps getting better. Eli ran a hand through his hair. Look, kid, your highness, whatever, right now you're in danger. Both sides will be looking for you. I need to get you out of here before someone realizes I'm hiding an enemy royal in my quarters. For 3 days, Eli managed it. He smuggled food, kept the prince hidden, and started planning an extraction. There were neutral zones, demilitarized territories where he could potentially hand the kid over to refugees heading back to Sarathi space. On the 4th day, the sky turned black with ships. They appeared without warning, dozens of Sarathi vessels dropping out of FTL directly above the base. Every alarm in the compound screamed to life. Soldiers scrambled to defensive positions. The base commander was on every comm channel demanding to know how an entire enemy fleet had gotten past their early warning systems. Then the broadcast came. It played on every screen, every comm device, every display across the entire sector. The image was crystal clear. A Sarathi female sitting on a throne that looked carved from a single massive gemstone. She was larger than any Sarathi Eli had seen in combat, with scales that shifted through every color in the spectrum. 6 arms instead of the usual 4, each adorned with golden bands, and a crown not worn but fused to her skull that pulsed with inner light. Queen Velshara Nos Korthas, humans of the Terran Coalition. Her voice carried absolute authority that needed no translation. 4 days ago, an escape pod carrying my heir crashed in your territory. I know my child survived. I know a human soldier found them. I know that human chose protection over protocol. In his quarters, Eli felt ice in his veins. I do not come for war, I come for what is mine. The queen leaned forward. Bring me the human who touched my child. Bring me the one who chose mercy over orders. You have 6 hours to comply. After that, I will consider my heir's absence an act of war, and this base will cease to exist. The image cut out. Eli looked at Prince Zethara, who had been watching the broadcast with an expression that was hard to read. Your mother doesn't mess around. She is the queen. She does not make empty threats. The prince stood. You must turn me in. If you do not, she will destroy this entire base to retrieve me. Yeah, that's not happening. You do not understand. I understand perfectly. Eli was already pulling on his armor. I understand that if I turn you over, the humans will execute me for treason before your mom even gets a chance to thank me. I understand that I'm screwed either way. So I might as well make sure you get home safe before everything goes to hell. Someone pounded on his door. Cade, Commander wants all personnel in the assembly hall now. Be right there. He looked at the prince. Stay here, don't make a sound, don't touch anything, I'll be back. The assembly hall was chaos, 500 soldiers demanding answers, the base commander trying to maintain order while officers argued about options. We can't hand over the kid, someone shouted. We can't fight a fleet. Someone else countered. This is a trap. The moment we give them the air, they'll attack anyway. If we don't give them the air, they'll definitely attack. The commander slammed his hand on the podium. Quiet, we're trying to establish communication with the Sarathi flagship. In the meantime, I need to know, does anyone have information about this escape pod? Any knowledge of a Sarathi survivor? Silence. Eli's hand tightened on his rifle. This was it. The moment where he could save himself by giving up the prince, by doing what any soldier should do, prioritizing human lives over the enemy. He thought about golden eyes watching him with trust no child should have to place in a stranger. I do, Eli heard himself say, every head turned. I found the pod, I have the prince in my quarters, safe, unharmed. The hall erupted. You what? Are you insane? Treason, this is treason. The commander's face went through several colors. Sergeant Cade, you're telling me you've been hiding the enemy's royal heir for 4 days? Yes, sir. Why? Because they're a kid, sir, and I wasn't going to let a kid die because of this war. You've endangered this entire base. Sir, with respect, the kid endangered no one. They're 5 years old. They just wanted to go home. Eli met the commander's eyes. The queen said she wants to meet me, so let's give her what she wants. I'll go up to that flagship, hand over the prince, and face whatever comes next. But the base, all these people, they stay safe. You realize she'll probably execute you. Maybe, or maybe she'll actually honor her word and recognize that I saved her kid instead of turning them into a bargaining chip or worse. The commander was quiet for a long moment. Bring the prince to the landing pad. We're sending you up. 20 minutes later, Eli stood on the landing pad with Prince Zethara beside him. The child had changed into fresh clothes, still that ceremonial style, and stood with royal bearing that looked absurd on someone so small. A Sirathi shuttle descended from the flagship. When the hatch opened, warriors emerged, full combat armor, weapons ready. They secured the perimeter, then one gestured for Eli and the prince to board. Wait! The prince turned to Eli. When my mother asks you why you saved me, tell her the truth. Tell her you saw a child who needed help and you chose mercy over war. Tell her, the golden eyes were solemn. Tell her that not all humans are enemies. I'll tell her. They boarded the shuttle. The interior was beautiful, all smooth curves and bioluminescent lighting, materials that seemed organic rather than manufactured. The warriors positioned themselves around Eli, weapons not quite pointed at him but ready to be. The flight to the flagship took 5 minutes that felt like hours. When they landed in the flagship's hangar, Eli was immediately separated from the prince. Royal attendants swept the child away while guards escorted Eli through corridors that looked more like art installations than military vessel. Everything was alive. Walls that breathed, floors that rippled, lighting that responded to their passage. They brought him to a throne room the size of a cathedral. Queen Velshara Nose Korthas sat on her gemstone throne, and in person she was even more imposing than on the broadcast. She radiated power that made every instinct Eli had screamed to run. Around her stood advisors, generals, and warriors, dozens of Sirathi watching the human with expressions ranging from curiosity to barely concealed hostility. The guards forced Eli to his knees. "Leave us," the queen commanded. "Your Majesty, he could be dangerous," one advisor protested. "He is a single human soldier who had 4 days to harm my child and instead kept them safe. He is not dangerous to me. Leave us." The throne room emptied. Eli and the queen faced each other alone. She descended from her throne, and up close he could see the way her scales shifted colors with her mood, currently cycling between deep blue and silver. Her 6 arms moved in patterns that might have been agitation or contemplation. "Look at me, human." Eli raised his head. "You are Sergeant Eli Cade, 27 years old, 3 years of service, decorated twice for valor, no family on record." Her voice was emotionless. You found my child's escape pod and chose to hide them instead of reporting to your superiors. Why? Because they were a scared kid who just survived a crash, and I wasn't going to let a child become a casualty or a prisoner. You risked your career, your freedom, potentially your life. Yes, your majesty. Why? She leaned closer. I have studied human psychology extensively. Your species is tribal, protective of your own, hostile to outsiders, yet you chose to protect mine. Explain this contradiction. Eli took a breath. Because being human doesn't mean being heartless, because kids are kids regardless of what species they are, because, he met her eyes, because I've seen enough death in this war, I wasn't going to add a child to that count if I could help it. The queen was silent for a long moment. My child tells me you were kind, that you shared your food, spoke gently, promised you would get them home safely. Is this true? Yes. Then you understand what you have done, human. In Sirathi culture, there is a law older than our civilization itself, the royal debt. When someone saves the life of a royal heir, that person becomes bound to the throne until the debt is paid. This is not optional. This is not negotiable. You saved my child's life. You are now tied to my bloodline until that debt is satisfied. Eli felt his stomach drop. What does that mean exactly? It means you have three choices. Queen held up 3 fingers. First, gold. I can pay you wealth beyond your species' imagination. You return to Earth a rich man and live whatever life you choose. The debt is considered satisfied through material compensation. That seems reasonable. Second, blood. You can demand a service from the crown equivalent to the service you provided. Military support for your people, technology, territory, political leverage. The debt is satisfied through reciprocal action. Also reasonable. Third, the queen's expression shifted to something Eli couldn't read. Bond, you can accept a permanent position within my royal guard, sworn to protect my child as you did in that crater, bound to the celestial throne for the remainder of your natural life. You would be given rank, authority, and the honor of serving the royal family directly. The debt is satisfied through lifetime service. That's basically slavery. It is service, with all the privileges and protections that entails. My royal guard want for nothing. They are honored above all others save the royal bloodline itself. She moved closer. But I will not lie to you, human. It would mean leaving your species behind, living among Sirathi, becoming part of our culture. Your life would no longer be your own. It would belong to the throne. Why are you even offering that? Why not just take the gold option and send me home? Because, the queen said quietly, my child has not stopped talking about the human who saved them. About your kindness, your courage, your willingness to sacrifice everything to keep them safe. And when I asked Zethara what they wanted more than anything, they said they wanted you to stay, that they trusted you more than any guard I could assign. The prince wants me to be their bodyguard. The prince wants someone who proved they care more about protecting a child than following orders. Someone who chose compassion over protocol. She straightened. I am offering you this choice not because I am required to, but because I believe you might actually accept it. Because in 3 years of war, you are the first human to show my people mercy without demanding something in return. Eli looked around the empty throne room. He thought about the base below, where he'd probably be court-martialed if he returned. About Earth, where he had no family waiting. About 3 years of fighting a war he'd never fully understood. Then he thought about a scared kid in a crashed pod, and the way those golden eyes had looked at him with trust. If I choose the bond option, he said slowly, what exactly would that entail? You would be trained in Sirathi combat techniques, royal protection protocols, and cultural integration. You would live in the palace, have access to resources beyond what any human currently possesses, and serve as primary guardian to the crown prince. When Zethara eventually takes the throne, you would become captain of the royal guard, second in authority only to the ruler themselves. And I could never go back to Earth. You could visit with appropriate security and under specific conditions, but your life would be here with us, with my child. The Queen's expression softened slightly. I do not make this offer lightly, Sergeant Cade. I am asking you to give up everything you know for a child you met 4 days ago. It is absurd, irrational. Yet somehow I believe you might actually do it. Eli was quiet for a long moment. Can I see the prince before I decide? The Queen gestured, and a door opened. Prince Zethara entered, still small and fragile-looking in their ceremonial robes. They walked directly to Eli and looked up at him with those solemn golden eyes. My mother told me about the debt, the prince said. About the choices. You do not have to choose the bond. You can take gold or blood and return to your people with honor. I would understand. But I would miss you. The child's voice was small. You were kind when you did not have to be. You protected me when it put you in danger. You are the first person in my life who saw me as just a child instead of a prince. And They paused. I would like you to stay if you want to. Eli looked at the prince, then at the Queen, waiting with inhuman patience for his decision. Then at his own hands, calloused from weapons, scarred from battles, capable of so much violence but also apparently capable of mercy. He thought about what the next 3 years of war would look like if he went back. More fighting, more death, more becoming the kind of person who could look at a scared kid and see an enemy instead of a child in need. The bond option, he heard himself say. I choose the bond. The Queen's expression shifted, surprise quickly masked. You are certain. This is not a decision you can unmake. I'm certain. I saved the prince's life once, might as well keep doing it professionally. Then kneel, Sergeant Cade, not as a prisoner, but as one who chooses to serve. Eli knelt. The Queen placed 2 of her 6 hands on his shoulders. The touch sent electricity through his entire body, something in her biology interfacing with his in ways that shouldn't be possible. By the ancient laws of the Sirathi Dominion, I accept your service. You are bound to the celestial throne, sworn to protect the royal bloodline, honored among all who serve. Rise, Guardian Cade, rise and take your place at my heir's side. Eli stood. The prince immediately moved to stand beside him, one small 4-fingered hand slipping into his. Thank you, Zethara said quietly. Don't thank me yet. I've never been a bodyguard before. I'll probably be terrible at it. You protected me when it mattered most. That is all I require. The Queen watched them both with an expression that might have been approval. This will not be easy, Guardian Cade. My court will question your presence. Other species will see you as a curiosity or a threat. And there are those who would harm my child simply to prove that a human guardian is insufficient. Let them try. Eli's hand tightened on his new charges. They'll find out what happens when you threaten a kid I'm protecting. Spoken like a true guardian. The Queen's scales shifted to gold pleasure in Sirathi emotional language. Come, we have much to do. You must be trained, equipped, and presented to the court. The Terran coalition must be informed that you have chosen to remain. And my child needs to eat. They have been too worried about your fate to accept food. As they walked through the flagship together, a human soldier, an alien queen, and a prince who'd somehow brought them together, Eli realized his life had just taken a turn he could never have predicted. He'd come to this war as a soldier. He was leaving it as something else entirely. And somewhere below on the human base, his former comrades watched the Sarathi fleet depart and wondered what had become of the sergeant who'd chosen a child over his career, mercy over orders, and service over safety. The war would continue. But Guardian Eli Cade wouldn't be fighting it anymore. He had a new mission now: keep one small prince safe in a galaxy that wanted them dead. It was insane, impossible, and somehow exactly what he was meant to do.